you so much for speaking to me today.
Absolutely.
So you are a respected economic developer, regardless of how you feel about that, and definitely a musician, maybe a respected one.
Right. Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about your background?
Sure. I grew up mostly in San Antonio, Texas, and I joined as many bands as I possibly could. I grew up with a parent who was a professional musician, and I've always loved music. It just felt natural to kind of fall into the same vein. But over the years of being a musician, I learned a lot about starting my own businesses. I had a production company, publishing company, things like that, smaller ones that along the way, I learned a lot about small business and being able to advocate and navigate yourself in those situations. So when I finally called it quits on that part of my career, I decided it would be a good idea to figure out what I wanted to be when I grow up, even though I'd already grown up, and had been pursuing going to law school. Had gotten my paralegal certification to kind of fill the waters out, and fell into economic development backwards, and I haven't been able to get out ever since. So,
So looking at Liberty Hill, what brought you here?
The opportunity. The city is experiencing rapid, violent growth in a short period of time, and having been through that in a previous city, I felt like this was a good spot for me. I really liked the people. Well, the interviewing went both ways. I was really interested to hear what the people of Liberty Hill wanted for this city and where they wanted to see their city in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. It all resonated with me, and I felt like I would be in a good position to help with those things. And that's how I define my career, is how I help wherever I'm going or what I'm part of, whatever group I'm part of, whatever entity I'm part of. I want to do the best I can for, especially for the people of Liberty Hill.
Sure. Where do you feel like that motivation comes from in you?
My parents were a lot like that. My parents were hippies, but it was very much about helping people. It was just helping people. And my mother was an artist. My father was musician artist, and just trying to make reasons for the people who want to be in this world better, you know. I learned a lot from that, and my grandparents who varied careers and such, but definitely from my parents.
I love that. Yeah. So going back a little bit to kind of understand where we're at Liberty Hill today, could you give me a little bit of an insight on what Liberty Hill of the past has looked like?
Sure. I mean, I've only been here a little over a year and a half at this point, and there are people who can tell the history better of Liberty Hill, but I would say rapid growth. In 5 years, we've grown over 340%. So we went from having very few people to having quite a few people. We're at a little over 16,000 people right now in the city proper, and close to 86,000 people in our ETJ. So we're pretty close to 100,000 people in the area. It's just the city itself is limited by the boundaries it has at the moment, which eventually will be different.
So what caused that rapid growth in your mind?
Well, I think it's the quality of life. I will tell you, I think instrumental to Liberty Hill's growth was the quality of the education out here. If you ask the average person here why they're here, it's because, well, the land out here is beautiful. We're in the hill country. It's away from the kind of hustle and bustle that you see in neighboring communities in a lot of ways. But I think most of them will tell you it was a great place to raise my kids. It was the right environment to have a great school system, be able to offer a lot to the kids that are here.
I understand, just hearing you say that, I feel like I understand pretty clearly why people coming to today have decided to come to Liberty Hill. Going forward, say over the next 5 years, what are the key reasons why you think people will continue to come to Liberty Hill?
I think it's the opportunities. I mean, we've got a lot of land. At this point, we started off as a bedroom community.
What does that mean?
Well, it means there's heads and beds here, and it doesn't mean there hasn't been, people don't know this. They probably don't recognize this because they don't see the boundaries the way people who work in the city do, but they're traveling to other cities to buy anything that they need. First of all, that's an inconvenience to have to drive further than they need to.
Right.
And second of all, if you're not buying things in your own city, you're not replenishing your own funds. You're not contributing to the city. So that's been the fault of the city. Essentially, we haven't had those opportunities until recently. Now, Costco and Target are huge for the city, but I think that's the beginning of the commercial is going to be coming here. The city will be able to capture the sales tax and use that sales tax to really help. I mean, one of the biggest things an EDC is here for is to make sure that the tax burden on the citizens isn't so high. So diversifying the economy with a commercial and a definitely a jobs base, anything that has to do, we all want, everyone hears the terms live, work, play. That's exactly what every city wants, live, work, play.
Sure.
We want people to be able to stay in the community. We don't have to drive somewhere else to work. So I think those are the things we see happening for the city. The opportunities will be there, and then the opportunities to work in the city will be there.
100%. Zooming out a little bit, a lot of the growth we're observing in Central Texas, Williamson County overall is just kind of performing incredibly at this point in time. What do you think it is about this region that's making it explode?
I can tell you the leaders on the county level, really make a big difference. They're very involved. I see that as a huge motivating factor. I think I will tell you my ability to be able to get a hold of people on the county level and get work done is bar none compared to where I've been in the past. It's been so easy to set up conversations, work together, partner on things. I really feel like that is exactly the way government was structured, that we all partner together. So when it works, it really works well.
That's super fascinating. So stepping back a minute, you talked about live, work, play, right? Some of the different key areas which cities need to fulfill in order to have a thriving population. In what sectors does Liberty Hill want to most grow right now?
Well, I think in all ways, I think the commercial and jobs has to be the biggest ways that we move forward. Commercial simply because, again, bringing those sales tax dollars in, keeping them in the city is very important because recapturing that money continues to pay down on roads, water, anything that needs infrastructure improvements. The only way the city will afford to be able to grow is capturing those sales tax dollars. So commercial is going to be very important, and the jobs I think are just as important. They're just not, we're not set in stone at the moment, knowing that we will grow and seeing all the opportunities. I think we're in a very good spot to be able to pick and choose who is the best fit for our community to bring them in.
Right. Just to kind of give me an idea of what that looks like, what are some of those characteristics that you would ascribe to a best fit?
I think that'll be ongoing. I think the citizens are going to be a big part of deciding that. But finding jobs where people can afford to live here. I mean, that's the biggest growth factor in Williamson County is people getting pushed out of other areas and being brought into areas that are affordable. To keep them affordable, we have to have a balance of the economics to be able to keep it going. Otherwise, it's unsustainable. I mean, several cities within the Austin MSA have started off as heads and beds and only a bedroom community, and everybody loves those, but the problem is the taxes in those entities are outrageous. It's not sustainable. So being able to balance that is whether it's intentional or not, because if it's not intentional, you're going to end up with things you don't necessarily see. So we're looking for things that fit us. We're an up and coming community, but we're also an established community. So we have that great, a little bit of both. People around here are really proud of having been here for years and years, and it's fascinating to hear all the things that happened in Liberty Hill years ago and continue to happen. But there's a history behind all these things that I think we have to be respectful of, and I think looking forward to what industries will be here. It's going to be who fits best for us as a city.
Yeah.
You know, and that has our growth and our limitations as well in mind, knowing what we want to do.
One of the things I really like about that frame of mind is it positions you to pick up partners as opposed to kind of like a loose relationship. It's not actually beneficial.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of times you see these if without the proper planning, right? You have, perhaps massive companies which will come into an area, but it won't be thoughtfully put together, And a city in that way is much like a home, right? You can tell the difference between when something's just been brought in for convenience and when something is built and constructed intentionally. And I think that thinking of city development and economic development in the way that you're doing gives Liberty Hill the chance to create an environment which is unique in its personality. And I think otherwise you just become another city you drive through randomly. You know what I mean?
Well, it has to be intentional,
Right.
and thoughtful and intentional. And those are the two things I think are very important for how we move going forward.
One other thing which I think we both know is true is as Liberty Hill grows and more people come in, that means that there are more and more people taking advantage of and using the resources in this community. How does the city balance that growth with the rising demand of resources?
That's a really good question, and I think that is the phase the city is in right now in the rapid growth. I don't think there's one answer that fits everything, but I certainly think, and again, I won't flog a one word over and over again, but intentional is very important, and knowing where to start and how to follow through. That's definitely very, very important, but always with a mind of who is this community and who do we want to continue to be. So.
Yeah, because one of the things I hear a lot of times is like issues like water resources, for example. And I know recently there's been some. Well, I don't want to say I know, but there's been some changes recently in Liberty Hill with its water. Is that correct?
There are ongoing changes. We are exploring a advanced water purification system that will allow the city to not only reclaim all the water, it will also store water, which at this point the city doesn't have capacity to do that. Most of our water comes from an outside source, which is fairly consistent with what other communities go through too. And I'm not subject matter expert, and we have people in our city who are working on this relentlessly and from every aspect they can possibly think of to make things better for the citizens that are out here and opportunities. We don't want to be, we want to be conserving our resources, but we also know that they have to be available. So I think being very conservation minded is very important and tells a lot about this city.
Yeah, and then again, it's just, there are some things which we can afford to use resources on.
Right.
But it's very important that we pick and choose spots. Because
Absolutely.
otherwise, we don't have an unlimited, there's always an opportunity cost, right? And I think that adds to the importance of picking the right partners to come and develop.
Absolutely. I mean, they've done a fantastic job in my short time here, but I will tell you, every day I'm a little bit more impressed with the ability to move forward on these things. Because they could be a paralyzing problem that you have, but the city has not been paralyzed. We seem equal to it. So,
yeah. If you were to kind of highlight a couple of the key reasons why y'all have been so successful, even if it was just to say like, this person I know is doing an amazing job or is really nice to work with, like, who would that be?
First of all, I have to brag on my board. The EDC board is composed of people who are working into various industries, but they've been mindful about bringing people in, somebody who's in construction, somebody who's in development, somebody who works for a large corporation, people who own their own businesses. We have a great mix. Our city council has been instrumental. I mean, the changes in the city in a short period of time can be both good and bad. I mean,
Right.
we get new partners and we learn how we can move forward best. And I would say we're on that positive note. I've been really impressed with the current administration and the city council to make big decisions and follow through with them. I think that's everything.
Yeah. Well, and it's all of the elements of the city work in tandem, and if everybody's on the same page, and also right, you talk about the board. If you've got diverse perspectives that come together to create insightful outcomes,
right,
that's the best you can ask for. Right?
Absolutely.
And especially too, having collaboration can fall apart. We've seen it in other communities, so it's cool to see an area where people are working together and understand the importance of making these decisions quickly and effectively.
Sure.
Because otherwise, I think one of the things you're describing there is there's definitely a tendency or a possibility to engage in, analysis paralysis? Right?
Absolutely. Well, it's also having good partners. And we talked about this at some other time, but, I would say as equally important to the people I just named are the ISD, the Emergency Services District.
Yeah.
The Chamber of Commerce here is phenomenal. We have all these really great partners. The Library Board, another one. We need to be able to figure out how to continue to work together. And I think if we don't lose sight of this, how we partner for what's best for the citizens of Liberty Hill and the taxpayers and everything, we know that we can succeed if we all work together. And just reminding ourselves we can't be divided. We may not always have the same purpose and we may not agree at some times, but knowing how to move forward in those positions to get things done is going to be the best thing for the citizens here.
Yeah, you shouted out right there the Chamber of Commerce. One of the things that I know from my experience working with different cities is the relationship between the EDC, the city, and the Chamber is always different. Mm-hmm. What kind of resources does the Chamber have available for community members?
Well, I think for ours, the camaraderie, the community of businesses working together is huge, and that's what our chamber has really done a good job is bringing all these people in that have businesses, and how do they help each other? How collectively they can work together on what's best for businesses, because we don't dictate that to businesses. Right. Businesses dictate that to us. And I think Chamber has done a really good job of capturing on that opportunity. We have to learn in our partnerships how not to step on each other's toes. Honestly, every city, like you said, is different. I think we were in a good spot when I got here. I think the way we all fit together is just kind of natural, but it needs tending. You have to make sure that you're constantly working on those things. And I think we're at the best spot in my short time here that we've been. Even people will tell me in the last few years before then, it just being intentional and collective intentional is very important. So,
well, and I think one other thing too is the relationship needs tending. So does every great relationship.
Absolutely.
In fact, I think the thing that makes it a great relationship is the fact that the partners within the relationship are willing to tend to it. There is no great system of people working together where it does not take a lot of effort to make it go well. And so it's just a question of people's willingness to go through that.
Absolutely.
If there's a potential partner or investor who's really interested in Liberty Hill as a community, what's a good way for them to learn more about how they could work with the EDC?
I'd say reach out to us more than, reach out to us. And I would say is equally reach out to the city, reach out to the Chamber of Commerce. I think it's good to get a feel for all those things, but we'd happy to make introductions. I think it's great that we all work together, but also knowing how we all fit together. If somebody came in and said, how does the Chamber see the opportunity? They can tell you their truth. We'll speak to our truth. The city will speak to it, and then you'll find that we're all pretty much aligned. But I do think there's a real good opportunity to bring people in. Contacting us, we'd love to be able to be. We want to be a source of information, a way of sharing the resources we have. We do that with businesses. So developers, site selectors, all of those folks. I mean, I know they have their own ways of doing it, but sometimes knowing locally how best way to get it done, honestly, is that shows a lot of respect for the business, the city you want to be in.
100%. And I think one of the other things that's really smart about offering yourself up in that regard is, no matter how big of an organization you are or how smart you are, you can't know the nuances of how a community operates without insider information.
Absolutely.
And so if you guys can present yourselves as the broker between those connections, that's an inherently and that's not even counting all of the other resources which the EDC provides.
Absolutely.
Just thinking about those things along themselves is tremendously valuable for anybody who might want to do business here.
So, and I mean, that bleeds in really well into business retention and expansion, which is one of the pillars of economic development. It's one of the best and probably the most important. I know many people will argue with me, but I think businesses you already have in your community, if you take care of those businesses, they are your best advocate. They also are the greatest source of opportunities, because if they're telling people, hey, this is a great place to do business, I really could use your business in my community to help my business, that is huge. It's a natural progression, but it's also, it doesn't happen unless we're intentional about how we're reaching out to those businesses. Yvonne Castillo is the projects manager for the EDC, and she spends a lot of time out in the community talking to businesses and about the impediments they might have, or what do they see, is there something that we can help with, or is there a resource that we don't necessarily have that we could add and that would be useful to them. Is making sure that we are constantly having that conversation, because it doesn't end, and it's not going to be the same answer for every company.
I would say that being there as a consultant is a resource amongst itself, right? Just being able to talk to the people who are currently at Liberty Hill and provide those conversations.
Absolutely.
What other kinds of resources do you have focused towards retaining and growing businesses already here in Liberty Hill?
Well, I think the most sexy one everyone always wants to hear about is the potential for having incentives. And incentives seem controversial to some people, but I'll explain. I think the easiest way to look at incentive is as an EDC or a city department, if the opportunity is there and there are rules and there are ways that we can work with companies and there are ways that we cannot. So we have to be sure that it's something we can do. If it's something we can do and we can help, there's always the chance that we can help with infrastructure, we can help with incentivizing job creation, recognizing capital investment in the community. Those kinds of things, there's an opportunity for us to help. And it shows, I consider it a cost sharing, and some people tell me it's more nice to see a city having skin in the game in these particular things. And that's kind of how I look at incentives is, we should be but for us, maybe an incentive that helps somebody come in, but it's also recognition for that company's standpoint that we also have skin in the game.
Yeah,
we want to see them succeed.
100%. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? Like, there's something powerful about an assurance that your partners are going to stick with you while they play.
Yeah.
I thought of something recently, which is, why do we like it? If we're hiring someone to do something creative, why do we want them to sign their work? Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, we know that if they're going to make this work that they're doing with us a big cornerstone of their brand, they're going to give everything they've got to make it go well, because they're like, hey, we want to put this on our website. We want to talk about it. We want this to be something we share with other people. And in that way, I think when we feel confident that the people we're around have value alignment, it makes it a lot easier for us to head in the right direction. Now, one last question there. You said it would be a little bit, you said incentives might have some air of controversy around them.
Well, I think some people, I understand, and we hear this quite a bit. I mean, in our line of work where we have people at different levels, even of government saying, oh, you're picking winners and losers, and that's not the case, because no incentive was ever used to make sure a company stayed in business. that has to happen organically, but that they have an advantage, or maybe there's a possibility that you recognize a period of growth in the company where maybe they not having to pay out everything all at once and having help with paying for certain things like taxes, or paying for bringing in materials that they use in the company, equipment, those kinds of things. And I think that really helps companies understand that you're on their side. You're trying to make sure that they're not going to fail. You're doing your most to make sure these people won't fail as well. It can seem controversial to some people because they think, oh, my tax dollars are being used to that. Well, it's true, but in our line of work, this is only generated by sales tax. Ad valorem is not going to that. And, we always tell people that the money that's generated by sales tax is totally optional. You can decide not to spend that money, but that money does go back to reinvest in the community. And that is basically what some people don't understand, is the reinvestment.
Right.
But that is a good practice.
Well, and also it's like the reinvestment is targeted locally. Like if your big gripe is that your dollars are flowing out elsewhere to contribute to something that you're not seeing the benefit from, it's like, hell, if the EDC is, if there's an incentive getting placed, and that's an that's a reinvestment in future sales
Absolutely.
tax, in future money that will eventually lead to you paying less, because like you described.
Absolutely. Yeah. And not everyone's going to be happy with everything that comes. They're going to find a reason not to like everything. And I fully understand that. I mean, it's everywhere you live that happens. And we don't get to say no because we don't like that particular business. So apologize for that.
No, you're totally fine.
In fact, I'll turn it off. There we go.
Well, Christian, I think that makes total sense here. I want to be respectful of your time because I know we have some exciting things coming up later today.
Sure.
But thank you so much for speaking to me. I greatly enjoyed it, and it sounds like Liberty Hill is a place that's only getting better.
It definitely is.
Full of opportunity.
I'm so excited about the, economic development guys and ladies we geek out on the opportunities that are going to be, and I feel like this is a great place for a business to relocate. We have so many phenomenal people in the city. Every day I meet new people, and it's reinvigorating, it's exciting, and there's some really great opportunities here. So
I love it. Well, we're looking forward to seeing how this comes along. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you.